So let's start building out the verification functionality. And the way this is going to work is I'm going to have a verify method on the user class, and that's going to go ahead and pass in the username and code that were passed to verify.php using get method. And then if verification was successful, I'm going to have one piece of content in the body. And if verification failed, then I'm going to have a different piece of content. So everything inside this body here, this will be what you get if verification was successful. So let's go ahead and on the user class, I'm going to add public function verify. And this is going to take a username and a verification code. And then if the verification was successful, I'll add that later, then I'm going to output this content. So echo, and then I'll add a here doc for the body text. So that's the content you get if registration was successful. And that's all I'm going to do for right now. And then in verify.php, I'm going to create a PHP island in the body. And this is going to create a new user object. And then I want to call the verify method of the user. And I want to pass in the username and the verification code. So these are going to be passed in as get parameters because you can't submit a form through email. So what I want to do is in utilities I have get post value as a helper function. I also want to have one for getting get values. So let's go ahead and add that. So get value. And that's going to do exactly the same thing, but it's going to go to $ under get instead of $ under post. And then in verify, the first parameter is going to be get value of user : username key. And then I also want to have one for the verification code. And actually it's this thing right here. So this should be the username key. So I need a variable for that. And I need one for the code key. So I need to add one of those. So there's the username key, here's the code key. And then instead of hard coding those values in here, code key is code, and username key is key. So this should do the same thing, but it's a little easier to change. It's using the global constants now, or the class constants. And then this is going to be get value user : code key. Alright, so let's make sure everything still works. First I'm going to sign up again with a new account. Oh, try 4. Try 5. Oh, darn, that worked. Okay, so now let's see if I got my email. And I did. And let's make sure the URL is still okay. So code is that and username is that. So let's go ahead and access that page. So I need to make sure that utilities gets loaded in verify.php. So that should be part of the common requires. So assets includes utilities.php. Okay, and I have a little problem there. So yeah, I have two island closes. Great, so that's working now. So now for the logic inside of verify. The first thing we want to do is get the user data. And this is going to look a lot like what we did when we logged in. So let's start with the login code here. And we're going to do that here as well. And then in this lookup user, we want to go ahead and also include the verification code. So username, email, hash, role. Username, email, hash, role. And then I think it was verification code. Let's take a look. Yeah, verification code. I probably should have just called that code to keep it easy, but all right. So this is an associative array, so we'll just have an additional value in that array. And then what we want to do is first we want to actually, instead of passing username in, this has been URL encoded. So we want to URL decode it first. So that will reverse the encoding that we had to do in order to stick it in the URL and look it up. And at this point, we should have the code on user. So I'm going to go ahead and put a breakpoint right here and enable debugging. Go back to my verify page, hit reload, and then go back to PHP Storm and continue. Actually, I have this option, break it first line in PHP script set. I'm going to uncheck that so that it just runs to my breakpoint. And I actually didn't get to the breakpoint, so let's try this again. All right, so let's see why I'm not getting to the breakpoint. Get rid of some of this stuff now. Put a breakpoint here. Step into, return that. Now we're in verify. Look up user. Step over. Oh, since we're not using user, it doesn't actually stop there. But we have the user array. And it's got the right verification code, it's got the username and everything else. So this all looks good. So now let's go ahead and check, turn off debugging. Let's go ahead and compare if user pointer, if user sub, user : verification code key equal code. Then we want to do something, including outputting that body, else that means verification failed. And we need a verification code key. Actually, let's do that on the database. So that's shared database verification code key. So I'm trying to not have shared database refer to user, only have user refer to shared database. And since I want to use the same constant in both places, it should be in shared database. So const verification code key is verification code. And then to make sure that we have that coming back, basically everywhere where we have this verification code, we want to use that constant. But for now, I'm going to do it in lookup user. And then I'm going to do the same thing in store verification. And I think that's everything for now. All right, so that's what happens if login or verification was successful. And I have to add code to actually change the role to verified. And then here's what happens if it was unsuccessful, if it didn't match. And I'll just say problem verifying your account. We're sorry, but the verification code you provided does not match the username. Please, let me break that line. Please check your email to make sure that you click the link from the most recent verification email. Okay, so that's just assuming they clicked on a link from an old one. And then let's go ahead and try it. So if I hit reload, unexpected end of file, t variable, or here doc, so and user on line 200, and there we go. So I had some extra stuff at the end here, so this wasn't exactly matching. It's a little picky, here doc is. Okay, so that's what you get if verification was successful, and then here's what you get if you give the wrong code. So that actually seems to be working. So now what we want to do is we want to update, if they're verified the account, we want to do two things. We want to update the user record in the database to change the role to verified. And we also want to log the user in. So let's start with logging the user in. Here's what we did before when the user logged in. So let's do the same thing here. And then to update the role, I'm going to call db pointer change role to verified. And actually I'm going to make this a constant. So this will be user : verified role. And let's go ahead and create 3 roles. I'll put them right here. So const user role is user. Const verified role is verified. And let's also create an admin role. Now, I actually already have a user role here. So that's actually the name of the column coming back from the database. So let's not call this role user role value, and verified role value. Okay. So now we need to implement this change role method on the database. Actually, before we do that, in order to change the role, I need to know the username as well. Good, so that's going to change the role for the username to verified role. So public function change role, username role, and that's going to be an update statement. So just like this one, we'll copy all the code here for now. And then we don't need the verification code. Safe username, always a good idea. Update users set, and then this is going to be, so we want one for role here. Verification code key, role key. And then like so, and we're going to set role key equal to role. And then the rest of this is the same. So that should update the role for the user. And let's go ahead and I'm going to reload here. So the role is user for all of these. Yep, role is user for all of these. And then if I hit reload, mark 5 should be verified. Okay, undefined class constant verified role in user. So I forgot to change that. So this is actually verified role value. There. So let's go ahead and see whether I'm verified now. And I am. And I should also be logged in. And I am. So let's log out. Click that link again. Okay, so that's not quite working. And I think the reason is because this verify.php hasn't been attached to the same session as the nav bar. And so what we need to do here is, as part of our common requires, let's go ahead and start the session here. And that way, after it's required all the stuff, it will always attach to the same session for all our user-facing pages. And right now we only have two. So we have index.php, and so now this will attach to a session, and verify will as well. So let's go ahead and see if that helped. I'm going to hit reload. And now I'm logged in. I'm going to hit log out. And then I'm going to click this link again. And I'm logged in. So that all seems to be working.